Hello, everybody. Happy
Hey,
Friday.
happy Friday.
We made it through another week. Friday, 4 p.m. It's time for the back catalog listening party. My name is Mother Banjo.
I am Anthony Ihrig,
And then
and
joining us today, Chris Silver.
Hey, folks. Good to be
hey,
here.
Great to
Awesome.
have you. And Chris joining us from River Falls, Wisconsin. And how is it on the other side of the river over there?
It's always beautiful in River Falls. We're just up the bank from the Kinnickinnick River, which flows into the St. Croix, and it's always beautiful here in River Falls.
Nice. And you were telling us before we came on today that there's a lot of great local breweries where you are at. What are
Yeah.
you drinking today?
Well, I'm traveling to Minneapolis today to Fulton, but we have
excellent.
a beautiful little craft brewery owned by some friends of ours, the Swinging Bridge, and just down the road from that is Rush River. So there's no shortage of good beer in our area.
That's
Yeah.
great. And Tony, what are you drinking today?
So I'm going back to Fort Collins, Colorado, which a place I love. I used to live there, and I'm trying something new. This is a sour IPA by New Belgium.
Nice.
All right.
And then because it would have been the Minnesota Bluegrass and Old Time Music Festival, I thought I'd go with my camping gear. So it's the Mother Banjo
Yeah.
flask, which I take with
Nice.
me every
Wow.
festival. And I don't know if I should tell you what's inside or not, but no, there's some bullet rye happening in this flask. So
All
could
right.
get it could get a little exciting today. Well, cheers, everybody.
Yeah.
Happy Friday.
Cheers. Ready, set, go,
Yeah.
Chris.
All right.
And it looks like Alan's joining us from Texas. He says he's got his G&T. Check, check, check. Awesome. And hi, Sarah,
Hey,
as well.
Sarah.
So let us know what you're drinking in the comments, where you're listening in from. We'd love to hear from you. If you're new to the back catalog listening party, it's all about the conversation. So if questions, comments, throw them in there, and we'll try and answer as many as we can as we go through listening to Chris's record today. We can't wait for this. So
And I want to say, if you are part of the Minnesota Bluegrass and Old Time Music Association crowd, we really would love to hear you. We are hurting here. I think Ellen, is that T-shirt what I think it
yeah,
is? Yep. Look at this, folks. Yes. For those of you who don't know, this is an annual festival that's been going on for decades, and this is the first year it has not happened, and so we're all longing for that time. But that's also why we brought our friend Chris onto the show, because he is a Minnesota Bluegrass and Old Time Music Association favorite. He's one of my all-time favorites, and we'll get into that. I'll be gushing a little later. But for those of you who might not know Chris and his music, Chris, could you just give us a brief bio and let us know how the album we're going to listen to today kind of fits in to your musical journey?
All right. Well, sure. I'm going to try to keep it short, but my journey into bluegrass started when I was in high school. I was kind of the geek that moved from Led Zeppelin and the Grateful Dead and these folks that I was listening to in the 70s onto the world of bluegrass and folk. A friend of mine brought me to a Doc Watson show at the University of Minnesota Whole Coffee House. And I was kind of dragging my feet all the way. Where are you taking me? And I got to the show, and Doc started his first tune, and I was mesmerized. I was stunned. I was like a deer in the headlight. So I went up right away to the first row of the whole coffee house and listened to every note. I'd never heard anything like that. And went to the sound guy during the intermission. I said, "Can you tell me where to buy records where I can learn how to play like this, or where can I find this?" So that was a life-changing event. And then I ended up at the Minnesota Bluegrass Festival in Taylor's Falls, Minnesota in 1979. My parents were the first aid tent people, and they dragged me along. And I said, sure, at that point. And I met up with Adam Granger, who was a great guitar player and singer. And I talked to him, and I said, is there any way that you can give me some lessons so I can try to play like you? And he
Nice.
did. And at that point, I was kind of hooked, and I wanted more than anything to play in a band. So I played in series of amateur bands for a while, and met up with some friends in college, and we formed a band. I think later on maybe we can show a picture of that. It's kind of funny. We all had long hair and stuff.
Sure, sure.
Um,
Which
and
one would
then
that be? Would that be Bound
we had a band
Ride?
called Generic Bluegrass, and it
Okay.
was a friend of mine and I who started that. Chuck Lemons, who lives in Austria, is a great songwriter. Yeah,
nice.
so there we are.
Wow.
And
Nice.
yeah, a lot more hair back then in that band. But anyway, that was kind of the beginnings, and we got our gigs in various little bars and chicken wire kind of places. And then after college, I was working at West Publishing downtown St. Paul, and I got a call. I had done some jamming with Kevin Barnes, and I got a call in the late 80s saying, Chris, we need a mandolin player, and Stony Lonesome wonder if you want to audition. And I was like the road runner, man. I was like, phew, I was there. So I auditioned for the band and got the gig, and suddenly I was a full-time mandolin player in a bluegrass band, playing some guitar too.
Fantastic. And for those who don't know, Stony Lonesome was the Minnesota bluegrass band, man. Just amazing musicians.
It was a good era. So we had a lot of fun, and of course the remarkable vocals of Kate McKenzie kind of led the way there. But we toured the upper Midwest. We toured coast to coast in Japan and in actually North America. So it was a great experience for me at the time. And I, after about 6 years, decided that I needed health insurance and maybe, with kids, a little more money. So decided to end life on the road a bit. And just took a little time off. But later on in that decade, the 90s we're talking about now, formed another band with Brian Wicklund. And I also played with Kate McKenzie, did a couple years of touring with her. And at a certain point, prior to this release of Souls and Spirits, I started experimenting with a different sound, combining some jazz elements and some folk elements and songwriting to my repertoire. Kind of got interested in what I could bring to the music that was unique, had my stamp on it a little bit. So that's what kind of led me to the Souls and Spirits project, and that's where I've been really since that time. It's just kind of trying to be a little experimental. My latest combination has been twofold. One, I have a bluegrass band called the Good Intentions with some really good players, J.D. Schaefer and Mike Kramer and Heath Loy. And we've been doing a little bit. It's been sort of slowed down with the pandemic, of course. And I also have a group that I'm really having a lot of fun with and have had a lot of fun with Chico Chavez on percussion, J.D. Schaefer on bass, and myself as a trio. And we do a lot of Americana, Brazilian, South American music, combined with a little bit of singer-songwriter and all kinds of fun stuff. So that's I think the problem with my musical interests is they're such a wide spectrum that I have a hard time focusing on any one thing before I hear something else and say, ooh, I want to learn that. So that's been my mindset lately. Yeah.
That's what I think makes your music special and your shows so interesting. There's always a little something for everybody, and I'd love for people to hear it. Should we spin a track off the record?
That'd be great.
All right. So it looks like first up we have Down in the Valley. Anything you want to talk about with that tune?
Yeah, so this tune, when I was coming up with the tunes, I should say that every song in this record, I was playing a little bit with Brian Wicklund and Pete Matheson at the time, and Brian Fessler. We had a bluegrass band in the making called Bound to Ride, and we were playing a repertoire that was kind of traditional, but this particular album, all these tunes were new. I spent 6 months bringing in this new material and writing for this project, so we had not played any of it prior to recording it. And I did that on purpose. I'll explain that later. But this tune I found in a songbook that I had. This song I remember as an elementary student down in the valley as a three-quarter time. And I found the original lyrics in this old songbook that the library was giving away, and there's like 12 verses. So I was just reading the verses, and they're so beautiful. The song is so incredible. So I thought, I want to take this out of three-quarter, and I want to give it a little bit of my own signature. So that's how this came about. And I felt like if I could think of a word to describe it, it's really crisp and fresh. But the lyrics, if you listen to them carefully, are absolutely stunning. It's a beautiful song.
Awesome. Well, let's take a listen. This is Chris Silver, Down in the Valley on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
so low. Hang your head over, feel the cold winds blow, feel the cold winds blow. If you don't love me, love whom you please. Throw your arms around me, give my heart ease, give my heart ease. Story, and here's what it sings, here's what it sings. Roses of sunshine, violets of dew, angels in heaven know I love you, know I love you. Build me castles 40 feet high, so I can watch her as she goes by, as she goes by. Bird in a cage, love, bird in a cage, dying for freedom, ever a slave, ever a slave. By mail, back in care of Birmingham jail, Birmingham jail. Down in the valley, valley so low, hang your head over, feel the cold winds blow, feel the cold winds blow.
All right, off to the races today on Back Catalog Listening Party. That was Down in the Valley from Chris Silver's 2004 release, Souls and Spirits. And that tune, a lot of folks loving that. And I have to say, the backing vocals, who was singing on that track with you?
Yeah, so that was a friend of mine, Dawn Shimp, actually, who played with her sister Heather in a group called Ruby Boots. And we crossed paths, Brian and I did a series of shows with them just about the time that this album came together. So I wasn't singing with Kate anymore, and I really missed that male-female harmony. And just as if on cue, we met up with Dawn and her sister Heather, an incredibly talented sister duet. So I asked them if they'd play on it, and sure enough, they did. And I'm really glad.
Yeah, beautiful vocals.
Yeah, man, I mean, just the players on this record are all just world class, phenomenal musicians. Do you want to just give a brief rundown for those folks who
Sure.
can't see the album credits?
So, as I mentioned, Brian and Pete and I were playing in different kinds of formations and trying to put something together. But the other people, of course, are Dawn and Heather Shimp. Ben Winship from Victor, Idaho was a guest musician on this project, and I've been a big fan of Ben's music on many levels for quite some time. And let's see, I'm trying to think if I covered Brian Fessler on banjo, of course, who is
my
now
first
back
banjo
with
teacher.
Right,
oh, really?
yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So he's playing with the Rooks, I think is the name of his
Band
group,
of-
which
Band of
is
Rooks.
the Lonesome River Band. And that's where he started before I met him in the 90s. He had just kind of come off that tour with those guys. So Brian is, obviously one of the best there is, and tone-wise and idea-wise.
Yeah.
So this group of musicians gelled from the moment we got together for this project. About 6 months into it, I started, or before this project happened, I started arranging and writing and getting things together for it. But none of the musicians knew the music until maybe, I was talking to my wife Naomi, did we meet even to rehearse before? Did we just go to the studio?
Oh.
And we were thinking we may have just gone to the studio and said, okay, chart number 1, here's the idea that I have, which was a scary thing
awesome.
because we were at NPR at $125 an hour back then with an incredible engineer, John Scherf. And so it was a little scary, but I knew I'd brought the right people together. And once that first song, that first take was done, which might have been down in the valley, maybe that's why I picked it first here, but we knew we had something ensemble-wise. From that moment on, we were just like, whoa, this is good. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, but this is something special. So I want to make sure that that's the spirit here is that it was a great project, not because of me, but because of who we brought together for this and in the spirit in which it was created. We just gelled in that moment.
Well, and that makes sense now, too, the energy that you feel coming from this record. I feel like there's just a lot of energy. Every time I put it on, I get some of that. And I think, as someone who's kind of done it both ways, over-rehearsed and under-rehearsed, when you don't know the material, it changes the way you approach it. If all the ideas are new and fresh, and you can really feel that coming through.
Well, thanks. And I haven't done a project like that since. I've done several albums since this one, and they've all been very rehearsed and very planned out and many, many takes and all that. But this one was just like, boom, it just came together. And I think I had a hunch that it might, but once we got, like I said, that first track, it was, this is it. We've got something special going here. So we spent about, the better part of a week doing the live stuff in the studio. Ended up being a very expensive project. Thank you, Tom Schomer, if you're listening. He loaned me the money, and I said, Tom, that's so generous. What kind of expectation do we have for repayment? He said, sell enough CDs to repay me. And it was a few years later, but I did. But it was definitely the most expensive project that I did in the 10 records or so that I've made. And there's always that cost-benefit thing. I think it shows. I mean, John Scherf is simply one of the most talented engineers in the world. He was one of the first ones on board with Sony Super Audio and records orchestras all over the world. So this was a treat to be in the studio with him, not to mention these musicians that gathered for this project.
And
for
those...
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, and for folks out there listening who maybe aren't familiar, Minnesota Public Radio studios are amazing. Like
world class.
I mean, this isn't just a little cramped radio booth. This is like, top of the line. Again, they are equipped to deal with orchestras and big groups and just big windows. It has a really nice vibe as well as being at the top-notch studio.
That's kind of where I was going with my question. Is I've been in those rooms, and those rooms are big and they're gorgeous. And I was wondering, was the whole band together in one room, or were you in isolation?
No, we weren't in isolation. I made sure of that, and we did have like sound separation, little walls and stuff. But it was a little hillbilly. I think Garrison Keillor came in at one point and came into the studio and kind of check out what we're doing. And we've got beers and we got chips and sandwiches, and it's kind of a mess. And it's not like it's Studio M, but it's not like we're recognizing that studio, and we're just kind of making our own. We had a rug and we had a small. Musicians were probably no more than 6-7 feet away from each other. So that's why we wanted to do it.
I love it. I love it. Well, should we dive into the next tune? Mm-hmm. This is one of my all-time favorites, and I think I remember seeing this one featured in like one of the flat-picking guitar magazines. Is that true? Were you kind of
well, I
asked
have to know
to
the
write this one
tune
up
first.
The next one you had lined up is called Fat Brown Trout.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this one did get featured in the Flat Pick Guitar magazine. I wrote out the tabs to it. So if you happen to have that issue in 2004, you'll see the tabs to this one. Actually, if anyone's interested, I can probably make a photocopy of that. But I tabbed it out, and this one I think was my attempt to dive into or get as close to David Greer as I could stylistically. At the time, I was kind of listening to a lot of his music and the whole jazz bluegrass connection. And I'm a trout fisherman, so I picture the energy of this tune having something to do with a big trout coming up, capture a fly on the stream, so that's the backstory there.
Nice. Well, this is one of my favorite instrumentals.
Me
And
too.
I'm so excited for everybody to hear this on this wonderful Friday afternoon with Chris Silver, Fat Brown Trout on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Right.
Wow. Try and catch
Bringing
that
it.
fish. You're
Well,
reeling it in.
We were young back then, weren't we?
Bluegrass, man. All right. It feels like August festival all of a sudden here.
Yeah, right on. My son Ari is grieving a little bit. You know, that's been such a big part of his growing up. You know, and he's in the basement right now in his room, just kind of wishing
I'm with
he was
you,
at a
Ari.
festival. Yeah,
I'm with you.
Yeah, so tough one.
It really is. And I'm hearing. I mean, that kind of flat picking is really like kind of next level.
If folks just tuned in up to the back catalog listening,
I think we might be having some technical difficulties, but basically, I just wanted to ask you a little bit more about other guitar influences. David Greer, clearly, Doc Watson. That was when I first got to know your music. That was some of the first stuff that I heard was your guitar playing. Who else were you listening to back then?
Yeah, so Clarence White was huge in my world. Initially getting into this. In fact, I was telling you about when I went to the Whole Coffee House. I was talking to the sound guy, and he told me I have to hear the Kentucky Colonels too. So that was one of the albums I bought the next day. And but I'll tell you what, in terms of my guitar style, I mean, I have to give credit to Tony Rice. I would be lying if I wasn't a protege. I had a chance to tell him that
Oh, cool.
in an elevator of all places. But I got that David Grisman quintet record as a 17-year-old, or I can't remember, 18-year-old, and I was so thrilled and enthralled with that. I'd never heard anything like it. This was after exploring Doc Watson, and then I listened to it in my room at my parents' house for a week, and I couldn't sleep. I mean, I'm serious. I'm not kidding. I couldn't go to bed at night and get a good night's sleep because I kept hearing, especially the guitar. So I actually found a place where I could buy a half-speed Marantz cassette recorder to try and learn like what this guy was doing. And I went to college with that recorder and my guitar. I drove my roommate crazy because I listened to this one album and I learned side A, after about 6 months, and I flipped it over and started learning side B. And I think, I took it from there into my own realm. I don't sound exactly like Tony Rice, and I'm glad, I wish I could play like Tony Rice, but I'm just saying, I kind of took it into my own realm. And then David Greer, I think, just his smooth approach, just how fluid his pick is off the strings, and I tried to emulate a little bit of that on that last take that you heard, but and since then have really been sort of interested in Latin jazz and Brazilian mandolin and so forth. So I mean, a lot of it's just coming from different angles, but starting point was Doc Watson, there's no question. Adam Granger, who was a Doc Watson, what do I want to say, protege, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't want to say contemporary because Doc is older than Adam, but definitely very similar approach. Adam's, a masterful player, and but I heard something else when I heard Tony Rice. I heard something else I wanted to chase after, and kind of make it my own. So that's the story of my flat pick guitar.
That's great, and I think for all those aspiring pickers out there, transcribing your favorite players, whether it's the same instrument or not, is probably the way to do it. And I totally can hear that now that you mentioned that. There's no better way I think to internalize the language. I like to think of music like a language, and if you want to speak it,
I agree. And the good thing about copying somebody note for note is that you suddenly start building your vocabulary of phrases, and you'll be surprised where they come out then. So you might be playing a solo to Roland Buddy, and I've got this thing in my mind that I heard Tony do. It could fit here, you know what I mean? So it's just to me, and I tell this to Ari, it's just your vocabulary is going to build and build and build, and the longer, because he asked, Dad, how do you come up with that, And I think at a certain point, your vocabulary gets thick, where you have to think less about the mechanics, and you're more here when you're designing a solo or whatever. So that's how it works for me.
Well, I'm back. I think all my technical issues are hopefully resolved. But luckily I caught the whole tune before my computer started glitching out. And I did want to say, so we were talking about the guitar playing, so beautiful, so fluid, the arrangement too, where there's that sort of slow bridge section and the fiddle comes in. One of the things that I'm always impressed with is your arrangements of tunes, not just the playing, but like figuring out how to construct the tune, whether it's an original or a cover. Did you spend much time with these tunes, or again, was it more improvisational in the studio? Yeah,
so the getting together was improvisational, but as far as arrangements, I thought it through in a very detailed way ahead of time. And that bridge that you were talking about, I played with that, and kind of invented that, not on the fly, So a lot of this, the interesting part of this album is that the arrangements and the charts and everything were done months in advance, but no one played them. So I knew what I wanted. I was able to come into the studio and say, this is what I want. And then, of course, these phenomenal musicians said, well, you might want to add this, or let's try this, which was great. But I had a framework, and that's, that was my approach back then. I'm a little different now, but I had, so sort of months in the making. I want to create a bluegrass album that's not trying to just recreate what somebody else has done. I want to put in some drama. So I consider that part in Fat Brown Trout very dramatic, how it built. And I heard Brian now listening to it now, just doing these wild fiddle things at the very end of that. And that was brilliant. That was brilliant on Brian's part. But he took what I had and just kind of ran with it. But it's fun.
Well, that kind of leads me to my next question and maybe the next song as well, which is this kind of extension of bluegrass that started back in the 60s and 70s that some refer to as newgrass and others maybe progressive acoustic. There's lots of different names for it, but some of the traditionalists might not feel like, oh, this isn't bluegrass. But I feel like you're, in the Twin Cities at least, one of the torchbearers of that tradition. At least for my generation, anyways, we were all watching you, going, "Now what is that? I don't know what that is, but I love it."
Yeah.
And this is a time before it kind of maybe just after the "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou" bluegrass boom had started, right? And things were changing. And I just would love to hear kind of your take on this idea of kind of bluegrass to newgrass, and maybe we can segue then into the next tune, which is an R&B song that you grassed up. Do you want to speak to that a little bit?
I can, and I could go on, and I won't. But this was a weird time because I was getting a little experimental. Nowadays, you listen to a lot of younger bluegrass bands, and you hear a lot of stuff similar to what we did on this project. But I remember playing the next tune that we're about to hear at won't give it away yet, but I was at the Mabatma Winter Weekend, and I played that tune to an audience, and they were kind of less than responsive. And one of the members of the audience went up to Brian Wicklund and said, "What's wrong with Chris? What's going on? Where is he going?" And Brian said, "I don't know. He started robbing convenience stores, and it's
nice."
But it was a little bit of fight for me in our kind of more traditional bluegrass circles. Like I never felt like I had to prove anything to anybody, but I did get, like, you could see the question mark bubbles sometimes in the more traditionalists. And to be honest with you, I understand that, but I don't have any room for it in my life. I think music is so deep for me. It's like to get pigeonholed into one particular version of bluegrass made no sense to me. So I ignored the naysayers and kind of went with the people that were into it, like yourself, and that worked out well for me because it allowed me to stretch out a bit. So that's my story there.
That's great. And it really meant a lot to us. We were, just getting into this music, and I didn't really feel like we had a place. I didn't feel like I had a place in this music. I wasn't from the South, and I didn't want to try to be. And then when I heard the kind of stuff you were doing, I was like, wait, there's a whole other world of bluegrass, and I've traced it back. Oh, look, there's the John Hartfords and the David Grismans and things like that. And I think this next song kind of encapsulates that. Do you want to set this up? One up?
I would love to. And the battle lines don't need to be drawn. They never did. And I'm glad that so many people were receptive to what I was doing. But I have a confession to make, and this leads into the next song. When I was growing up in the 60s and 70s, and I was a high school student in the 70s, I didn't want to admit it because I was starting to get into folk music, but I had a thing, I'm going to be honest with you, for disco. And not the kind of disco that's real electronic, but the disco that I'm talking Earth, Wind, and Fire, Michael Jackson, to be honest with you. I'm talking the OJs, that kind of where R&B meets the disco beat. Did something for me. I'm going to admit it and come clean as a 58-year-old. Okay, I can do that now. I can be honest, not worry about it. But in fairness, I have to say that I heard an acoustic version on a children's record of this by Keb Mo. And it was slower. It had acoustic guitar, but it still had kind of that Motown feel. But all of a sudden, I'm thinking, spark has been created. What would that song sound like in bluegrass? So I popped this on the band in the studio. They didn't know that we were going to do this. This was recorded. I remember this tune very distinctly because it was recorded late at night. We're talking midnight. Lights are low. I even had John Scherf turn the studio lights way down.
Nice.
We did it in one take. And I listened to it when he gave me the CD a few days later, and I listened in the car. It's going to sound kind of sappy, but I actually cried. I thought this is something really special, and again, not because of me, but because of the whole thing that came together. And I think we made kind of a cool statement with this tune. And my friend said he discovered my music by hearing it on Sirius FM driving through Nevada or something late at night, and he had the same feel too. So this came from the OJs by way of Keb Mo. It's called The Love Train.
Awesome. Well, you can listen to it for yourself. This is Chris Silver. He's taking the Love Train on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
People all over the world start a love train. People join hands, ride a love train. First stop that I made will be Washington. Tell all the folks in Russia and China too. And don't you know that it's time to get on board and keep that train riding on through. People all over the world join hands, ride a love train. People all over the world start a love train. People join hands, ride the love train. Whoa, people all over the world start a love train. All of your brothers over in Africa, and tell all the folks in Egypt and Israel too. Please don't miss this train at the station, 'cause if you miss it, I feel sorry for you. People all over the world join hands, ride the love train. Whoa, whoa. People all over the world join hands, start a love train. People all over the world ride the love train. Don't be no tickets. People all over the world ride the love train.
Oh, yeah. Chris Silver,
yeah.
from his 2004 release, Souls and Spirits. That was his take on the OJ's classic, Love Train. And I have to say, it's actually perfect for a bluegrass tune because trains, I think it's a requirement for every bluegrass or folk set to have at least maybe 2 train songs, 3, I don't know, depending on how long a set. But I would have loved to have seen who knows, maybe I was at this festival, I'm not sure, but I feel like my favorite moments at the Minnesota Bluegrass and Old Time Music Festivals always are moments like this, like where someone's kind of pushing the boundaries of bluegrass music. I say this as someone who's in that related bands category that isn't bluegrass, not old timey. And I always feel like we're the palate cleanser band. And I feel like one winter bluegrass weekend, we did Bad Company's Feel Like Making Love on the main stage.
Nice.
And it was like the people who knew the song, who kind of were like, were like really into it. And then, the older generation was just like, And
we always talked about the clicking of the chairs, and they click as they walk out. That's when you know you did your job.
Exactly. But I feel like those are because of people like you, Chris, you kind of, again, people who have the bluegrass cred, but then are willing to kind of do these different kinds of songs, introduce material that isn't usually done in bluegrass festivals. I feel like it allows some of us younger folks to like, oh yeah, it's okay. I mean, Chris Silver did it, so Mark Kreitzer did it. I can do it.
Yeah. Right on, and I appreciate that. So my, the thing is, Ellen, is I can play traditional bluegrass. I've been doing it since I was, a teenager, and I can play Walking Shoes as fast as anybody, even as a old guy now. Ask Ari, right? But the thing is, I so much appreciate traditional bluegrass for what it is, the tradition, the sound. There was something about it that just grabbed me as a young person. But I feel like, there's so much more, right? And to what music doesn't benefit from influences from other places to keep it alive and so forth. So I was fighting that battle for most of my musical career, but it stopped being a battle to me. It was almost like amusing, like I said, to have the person ask Brian, what's wrong with Chris? Is he having mental health problems or what's going on here? And seriously, and Brian,
of honor,
like I said, he had that great response. Yeah, I think he's robbing convenience stores and he's really slipping, But that's always been part of the fun for me. And there was a Mabatma Fall Festival moment years ago where the MC qualified my music to the audience as, this isn't going to work for you because he's got a drummer on stage. And, I don't know about this. And I got up on stage and I said, well, thanks for that. I said, and that means that you must not really like the Osborne Brothers then, because they played with a drummer. You must not like Flatt and Scruggs. You must not like Jim and Jesse because they play with drums. It's good to know that you've qualified the music so narrowly there. So anyway, I got my little 2 cents in.
Well, I have to say, I remember one August festival, while we're going down memory lane, since we can't be at the actual festival this year. Tony, were you playing drums or were you playing?
Oh, maybe with
Kreitzer. Mark Kreitzer, a late night set. And I remember, and Tom Schaefer, and it was a great band, but yeah, you were like the last set on the main stage. And I remember Tom and you, before you went on, I don't know if you were nervous about it, but this flask made its rounds behind the stage while they were introducing.
I do actually remember that. No, I got a few sideways glances when I was carrying the snare drum down.
Yeah,
but thanks to people like you, Chris.
I know.
I felt emboldened.
Yeah, and I do want to mention that we have a bunch of comments, and I want to make sure we address some of them. First of all, Chris asked the most important question we love at every show. Is this album available for purchase? And it is.
Yeah. So here's the funny thing, Chris, is that I, in getting ready for the show, I had to find a copy of the CD, and I opened up a drawer downstairs where I keep CDs, and I have a few copies left. So I would suggest, if you're interested, you could just go ahead and go to my website and just shoot me a message, and we'll get one to you. So it's chrissilverband.com. And yes, I do have enough left where I can, I don't know, I might even do another printing of this, doggone it. I mean, this is so much fun listening to it.
But otherwise, it's very exclusive if you get it directly from Chris.
It's definitely out of print. It's not at the homestead where I used to sell them in various places. Yeah.
I feel very fortunate to have a copy, and man, I've worn this one out.
All right,
and we had a bunch of other folks a while back. Bruce was commenting on his memories of the whole coffee house at the U, and Steve was saying that seeing Stony Lonesome at one of the Mabatma events was one of his favorite festival memories. So
is that Steve Schley?
That is Steve,
yeah. So hey, Steve,
Hey,
glad
Steve.
that you tuned in and you did such a nice job on the graphics. On
that was
this
his brother
album.
Jeff.
Or I'm sorry, that was Jeff. Okay,
Yeah.
I thought that was Steve. I'm sorry, but anyway.
yeah, it's great.
Kudos to Jeff.
But
by
that
way of
was Steve and Jeff and myself
Mm-hmm.
and Dan Christensen. We were in a band called Free Range Pickin' at the
Got
time,
it. I remember
and we
that.
were sitting out there in Zimmerman, just wide-eyed, and really, I think, deciding, hey, we don't have to do the traditional bluegrass thing. We've been given permission,
Good.
and on behalf
Good.
of the whole band, we thank you for that.
Yes,
Well,
for sure.
I'm honored that you felt that way.
I told you I'd be gushing.
If folks just tuned into the back catalog listening party, we're talking with Chris Silver about his 2004 release, Souls and Spirits, and we're reminiscing because this would have been the weekend of the Minnesota Bluegrass and Old Time Music Festival, where the three of us are pretty much there every year, playing and hanging out and jamming. And so we're doing a little reminiscing as well about some of those festivals. Yes, we're all grieving right now. But I have a couple more questions for you. One is, you started playing guitar. Obviously, you're known as a mandolin player. You play a bunch of instruments. On this album, I know you played guitar, certainly on Fat Brown Trout. Did you sort of mix it up as to what you just decided to play on the album? Because you had so many other great players playing as well.
Right. So I had the privilege of having Ben Winship on this project. And if you haven't heard Ben Winship, do visit his website and listen to some of his songs because he is one of the best. I met him at Telluride when his band won the Telluride band competition, playing a Stevie Wonder tune. So you can imagine what kind of connection we made soon after that.
I bet.
So we became friends. Naomi and I were actually driving in near Yellowstone, and he lives in Victor, Idaho. So we went up the pass, and just by chance we knew where he lived, and we called him up and, hey, Ben, it's Chris and Naomi. He goes, oh, come on over. We ended up hanging out with him for a few days and getting to know him, and that one thing led to another. But he played mandolin on the tunes that I wanted to play guitar on because we wanted to do this as live as we could. And then I had written some tunes for mandolin that I wanted a little chunk of, right? So I had something that I wanted to say on that. So that's how that all worked out with the mandolin stuff. But man, I love what he played. It just gets this rich sound with his Haydn mandolin. Used to own one, maker from British Columbia. Just a deep wood sound that I think is so cool when people can get that on the mandolin in a real fluid way. So he captures that everything I like in good mandolin playing.
Yeah, for sure. And then I want to ask about the album art. Of course, if anyone buys the CD from Chris, they can get it. But tell us a little bit about who are these gentlemen in the photograph?
Right, this is significant. So the gentleman on the left is my grandfather. That's Karl Kaiser. And this was taken in Germany before World War II in the late 20s. And he was about 18 years old, maybe 18 or 19, and had just finished his tailoring apprenticeship. And what happens in those days when you finished your apprenticeship in Europe is you would wander, he said. So this was his wandering friend, literally, and he basically just took kind of the time to just explore, and before he came to the United States on the invitation of his cousin, and moved to St. Paul. Long story there, but he was a mandolin player and a violin player. Actually played on KSTP radio after he moved here, and was the president of the German club, and they had a lot of folk music. So he was a acoustic musician, and while he was alive, I think he died in '93, but he would come out to the shows that we did, some of the bigger ones, and while he didn't quite understand the whole bluegrass thing, he really appreciated the folk music and where I was coming from. So we had a bond, my grandfather and I, over this music. So this is when he was about 19, and then inside of this album has a picture of me, well, I don't know, 16, 17 years ago, and my son Ari, who many of you know is a good, really, good musician now. And that's Ari as a baby on the right, and that's me on the left as about a 12-year-old, or maybe, no, I'd say that's about a 9-year-old Chris on the left with my first guitar. So that is the legacy, so to speak.
That's awesome.
And I don't know, did you feel some of those souls and spirits going into this record when you were making it?
Yeah, definitely. That was kind of the theme, my grandfather sort of in the back of my mind, and my son kind of coming up is showing instant, interest in music and dancing around, as much as he could with his abilities as a 1-year-old. But yeah, so it's about legacy. It's about, our ancestors and their musical heritage and what they brought to us.
And it's
super cool.
And it will be cool to see where folks like Ari and the next generation take the music. I mean, you brought in Love Train. Who knows what Ari will bring into the music?
Yeah,
I can tell you already. There's quite a legacy coming up here.
It's kind of interesting with Ari. He's definitely got a wide range, like his dad, of musical interest. But as far as bluegrass, if we're just talking about the bluegrass that he plays, he's very much into the traditional stuff, which is kind of, maybe that's a rebellion. I don't know. But,
full circle, man.
The only thing I can say is he plays it well, and that's all that counts, But it's kind of interesting how it all ends up,
For sure. Well, it's been so much fun having you here on the Back Catalog Listening Party. We're definitely going to get to some more music before we go. But I want to mention that there is a tip jar for Chris since he's not gigging right now. So if you want to throw anything in, you can do that, as well as send him a note to get the album. And if you have any last minute questions that you're burning to ask Chris about his playing, about this record, about any of that, feel free to throw them in the comments, or just memories of your various Mabatma festivals. We'd love to see those too. So.
Yeah. I know. I see a few of you out there are more Mabatma comrades, and
that's right.
And we sure miss you right now.
Can I share one quick story about my first Mabatma festival?
Yes,
actually, it was the second year I was there, and I had met Brian Wickland, and we were almost age mates. So I'm a couple years older than Brian, but we ended up finding each other, of course, and playing music and getting to know each other at that festival. But later on in the evening, we must have been bored teenagers or something, but we stole a golf cart from the festival organizers, and we were on this golf cart late at night for a long time, laughing really hard. And we didn't get in trouble, which was good, but we had about 2 hours of a lot of fun that didn't have anything to do with bluegrass. So I thought,
don't try this at home, kid.
Yeah. All right, that's my Mabatma story.
That's cool.
I love that. Well, let's get another song in from the record. This is I Can't Get Over You. Is there anything you want to say about this track?
Well, this kind of comes from the time I spent with Kate McKenzie doing duet singing, and this was sort of a longing to get back to that sound. So Kate and I used to do some George Jones, Melba Montgomery tunes, and this is one of those. So Dawn Shimp sings a duet, and it just was trying to recapture the stuff I did with Kate in the late 90s. So.
It sounds great. This is one of my faves on the album. This is Chris Silver, I Can't Get Over You, on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
You got me spinning like a top. Don't let the spinning ever stop. Just tell me that your love for me is true. My heartaches disappear when you say I love you, dear. I only know I can't get over you. I've got an angel on one shoulder, the devil on the other. I'm in between, please tell me what to do. One tells me let you go, the other tells me no. I only know I can't get over you. Spinning and never stop. You've got me spinning like a top. Going round and round is all I do. I can't tell the day from night. Don't know wrong from right. I only know I can't get over you. I've got an angel on one shoulder, the devil on the other. I'm in between, please tell me what to do. One tells me let you go, the other tells me no. I only know I can't get over you. the other. I'm in between, please tell me what to do. One tells me let you go, the other tells me no. I only know I can't get over you.
All right, Chris Silver with "I Can't Get Over You" from his 2004 release. Yeah, Souls and Spirits. And it's certainly lifting my spirits to hear this bluegrass music on what would have been the Minnesota Bluegrass and Old Time Music Festival weekend. And so many great comments from so many folks out there. And I failed to mention earlier that Penny had said she was loving the show, but she had to leave for a banjo lesson, which I can't think of a better reason to have to leave.
Pretty sure
show.
that's the one excuse that is allowed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And before folks go, I do want to mention that this back catalog listening party that we do every Friday at 4, where we bring in guest artists and dig into an old record and talk about it with you and have a drink together. Tony and I have been volunteering our time to do it, and it's been such a pleasure. This is a 20th episode.
Yes,
and
thank you guys so much.
And kind of by demand, we are launching actually a Patreon page. So if you want to support the show and help us grow it and be on more platforms and turn it eventually, hopefully, into a real adult podcast. And by adult, I mean fully grown. I don't mean anything naughty by that.
Oh, wait. Oh no.
But so if you are interested in support, if you're one of the regulars, I know a lot of folks are, if you want to give a little something, just $1 a show, it will get you cool perks. And we're going to have some exclusive videos, after parties, shout outs on the show. So you can learn more at that link right there. And so that we can keep this going long after the pandemic. So
we realize that it's not, the pandemic isn't ending anytime soon. So we are definitely, as we reach 20, I see. Thanks, Cheryl. We are starting to invest a little bit in the infrastructure of the show, and we would love to preserve these interviews. We think it's really valuable, archival information, and it's part of our heritage as musicians in the upper Midwest, and we'd love to keep it going. 20 more, says Chris. Thanks. And so in an effort to do that and make the highest quality show we can, we thought if we could get some people on board, it would help us just cover those costs.
And it will also help with things like my weird glitchiness that happened earlier, so we can invest into the tech part of the show. So thank you all for joining us. But and thanks, Chris, by the way, for that comment about being a kid of the 60s and feel the same way about all the influences. That was great. Chris Silver, thank you so much for joining us. It's been such a treat. And if you're game, we'd love to squeeze in one more tune, because these bluegrass tunes are short. We can usually fit in another one.
Yes.
I don't
think
know.
That last one was 2
Maybe
minutes.
An encore?
That last one was short, 2 minutes and 1 second.
Absolutely, and I'll just kind of reiterate what you said. This is perfect timing for the show, and you guys are doing just an incredible job. And it's so nice to have, musicians like yourself that are so knowledgeable and able to, speak on a higher level about some of the music. And you guys are doing a fantastic job. So supporting you is a no-brainer out there. If you're wondering whether to do it, definitely pull the trigger and support these guys, and keep these shows coming. It's really fun. Yeah.
This is really the highlight of my week every week, and it's because we get to connect is in some way with the thing that we all do and that we all love, and that I quite frankly is getting me through this whole thing. If it wasn't for music, I don't know.
And we always know when it's Friday. It kind of really helps with our week.
Yeah, I mean nowadays you kind of lose track, don't you, when we're working from home and stuff? But I think you guys are doing the right thing. I heard an article or an NPR report that over 30% of Americans are feeling high levels of anxiety and depression. So you are helping, definitely.
Breathe deep.
Way. Yeah, love it. So take care of yourselves too.
Well, thanks. I want to, before we move ahead, I want to mention this next song is a bit of an ode. You mentioned in the liner notes specifically that you were influenced by a mandolinist named Sam Bush. And as the title will reveal, I owe you, Sam. That is a pretty explicit reference to where you got it. And before we listen to it, though, I just have a confession to make, Chris. And that is, when I haven't listened to this album in a while. And when I listened to this next track, I realized that I pretty much ripped off completely both the chord and rhythmic structure of this song for a song that I put out a couple years later with that band Free Range Pick, and I had no idea. But to me, that's a testament to how much of an influence you've been on me, and I just wanted to get that in the air, out in the open, and thank you very much.
Well, I take that as a high compliment, and we all know that most of the music that we create is just borrowed ideas from one place or another, so I take it as a high compliment, so thanks. I did have the chance to have this moment with Sam Bush after this album was released, and I found him in the lobby of the International Bluegrass Music Association event at the hotel. And I just had to go up to him and say, hey, I've had this long career in music, but you've been such an influence, and I just have gotten so much from your music. And he was gracious. I kind of was hoping for a longer conversation or something like, wow, that's great, you named a song after me. And he just did this big smile and took the CD. I don't know what he did with it, but, it was nice to be able to say at least, that you helped inspire a huge part of my music career. So
that's very cool.
I ran into Tony Rice in an elevator and I became speechless. It didn't work the same way. I wanted to say so many things and I couldn't. I just said, good night, so we all have those moments, right? But
we do.
Anyway,
we do. I'm having one of those right now. And for all of us who kind of came up in the time that we did, and there wasn't such a thing called jamgrass yet, okay? This was the original Midwest jamgrass. You're going to hear it on this next track. This is Chris Silver, I Owe You, Sam, on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Oh, Chris Silver, I Owe You, Sam. And I'm so glad we got to include that track, that encore track, because I feel like between that and the other ones we heard, it really encapsulates kind of the breadth of what you do, and why Tony and I are such big fans is because of all those different elements that you bring into your music, and that you're not willing to be pigeonholed into one thing. And I love that about your music. So
Me too.
Thank
I
you
really
so
appreciate
much.
that. Thank you guys for inviting me. It's a real treat. I hadn't thought about this record for a long time, and it's wonderful to be able to share it with you and people that are listening. So thanks so much.
Oh, well, thank you. And thanks to all of you out there listening. And again, get this record while you can, because this is like probably whatever copies Chris has is like the last ones ever.
We're down to about 20 extra.
Yeah, this is going to be valuable stuff. And I just put the link in the comments. If you search through the comments, you'll find a link to his website, Chris Silver Band, where you can contact him directly. I don't think it's on the website. Is that right, Chris? It's just go to the
album is not
page.
on the website, but if you want to just contact me through the website, I'll give you the PayPal link or whatever, and we'll send it out. Yeah,
great. Wonderful. And
when they're gone, man. That's
right.
That's it.
This is the deal. And folks, thank you so much for tuning into Back Catalog Listening Party for the 20th episode.
20.
Cheers, guys.
Yeah, cheers to that.
Congratulations.
There we go. Clink.
Thank you.
And thanks to all of you out there for joining us on this sort of festival, joining us for the virtual campfire, if you will, here on the Back Catalog Listening Party, in lieu of the Minnesota Bluegrass and Old Time Music Festival, which we will all gather at someday. And in the meanwhile, we're just going to keep enjoying music on the Back Catalog Listening Party. And next Friday, I will be camping with my family in Iowa. But Tony has a pretty
cool. I called up an old friend of mine that has probably the best stories that you're going to hear. Most of them PG-13 and above. Mr. Mark Kreitzer is going to be joining us next week, and he's just another fantastic talent. And I hope you can tune in. It's just going to be me and Mark shooting the breeze and listening to tracks from his record. So.
Excellent. And who knows, I might be showing up in the comments for my phone. We'll see what happens. But thank you so much for tuning in. And if you like the show, share it with your friends on Facebook or YouTube. And we'll see
become a patron, perhaps.
Patreon. Yeah, that's right. And thank you so much for listening. And we'll see you next Friday at 4.
Yeah. So take care. Thanks again, Chris.
Hey, thank you guys so much.